Welcome to another episode of Halftime Adjustments. It's your host, Eddie Arnell, my man G Witt, Mr. J. Luce. Going on, gentlemen?
Baby. Tighten up.
Tighten up, man.
Baby.
We're back. Had a little break there, a little hiatus. We are now beginning our 2023 coverage of the Tennessee Titans. Starting tonight, man. It's good to be back. Good to see y'all, man. Hope everything's been going well. Good to be back, man. And I would like to say that to take this time to congratulate Mr. J. Lou, man. He had an addition to the family.
Yeah.
Expanded by one. So be praying for him because he got two little knuckleheads to deal with. And his last one was a little girl. So
so keep on that prayer, man, because it's about to be rough.
It's about to be rough. So he got a 1-year-old and a newborn. So you know it's busy around this house, so bad. So we had to take a break and let J. Lou get his family life together, man. It's more important than the show. But hey, we back tonight, man. And glad y'all could join us tonight. Come in, get your questions, man. We have a big show tonight, ladies and gentlemen. You know, we want to talk about the new GM, Rand Carthon, excuse me. You know, excitement bringing into the organization. He has the pedigree from the 49ers, of course, the Rams, and a little bit of the Patriots. So he kind of falls in line with that treat on it, G. Witt.
Yeah, man, that was the thing I found interesting when with the press conference. I forgot about him being in Atlanta at the same time that God, I can't remember the GM's name now. Just draws a blank. But anyway, but the GM that went to Atlanta from
Dimitrov.
The Patriots.
Dimitrov.
Yeah. And when I heard that, I'm like, okay, well, the history just keeps on flowing, man. You know, Belichick influence is still coming through. But the thing you like about Rand Carthon, man, is the fact that he played in the league, for one. You know, that's important. The other thing you like about him is that from his time in the different organizations that he is a good evaluator of talent. Now he made an interesting point when they talked about his title that he had in San Francisco. He said it was just a title. He was also involved in the college scouting and as well as dealing with the pro scouting as far as free agents was concerned. So we got somebody who's been involved in all aspects of it. He was a scout at one time, so he understands talent evaluation. So I'm interested to see how he's going to do. It's a lot to take on coming in. I know he enjoyed that welcome he got, but I hope he's ready because he's only got maybe a year and a half, 2 years before everything just goes to pot. So I hate to be like that, but I know that's how it is in the NFL. He knows it.
So much so that welcome he had that Houston did the same thing for D'Amico Rodney. So copycat. I saw a good point there, Rodney. And so J. Lo, a lot of things, man, have happened in the last few weeks while we were off, man. Pretty much a new assistant coaching staff, if you will, new O-line coach, new OC, new DB coach, man. A lot of changes in-house. What's your thoughts, man?
Yeah, man. As we've been chatting back and forth, and I think you see the first steps in collaboration and Amy wanting to take the next steps to make this Titans organization a winner. Nobody yet, knock on wood, because I know Tim Kelly's still floating out there, but none of the changes yet have been in-house. Now I know that the DB coach, we probably will get confirmation by Tuesday. Chris Harris is, as long as he don't get the 49ers defensive coordinator position, more than likely he'll be here, and he's one of the ones that I think will be here for a year. Vrabel, if there's one thing we can say about Vrabel, he's done a phenomenal job getting talented guys like that on his staff, and has been on the offensive side of the ball, been able to get them head coaching positions or another coordinator positions just by spending a little time up under his organization. So I like what Chris Harris brings. I think you get some finalization probably next week on the offensive side of the ball. We haven't made any changes over there. We hired the young lady yesterday from Tampa Bay to be a defensive quality coach. She comes only full-time, one of the few full-time assistant women in the league, and did a phenomenal job. Comes highly recruited or whatnot, and does a phenomenal job with that Tampa Bay defensive line. So I think the silver lining, as far as when I was talking about you seeing collaborations, if we still had J-Rob I think Tim Kelly would already been announced as offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah.
I think you see Rand trying to bring some new blood in and working with Vrabel. And I'll tell you this, we kept saying all during the season, is Vrabel going to make this offseason his one where he loses his job? And he's proven to be that CEO, because if it's one thing we've seen is he's accepting change. He's never been a guy that does changes on his staff during season. We have to live with that, but you like to see the changes that he's making right now. But I think the reason we haven't seen, I think you see after the game next week, I think you see the rest of the dominoes fall to really put this staff together.
Yeah, you keep hearing names, Bieniemy, Nagy, and the Kelly, like you mentioned. So I think, like you said, once the Super Bowl is over, you'll start seeing some things fall into place, and let's start solidifying the coaching staff. One name, and I hope I hadn't heard anybody saying it, but I hope they can reach out to Munchak, man, bring him in and get him as this O-line coach. But what a guy that would be. I'm sure Amy would welcome him back with open arms if he would be willing to come back. And you mentioned Coach Harris, the DB coach. I really think, and I'm gonna say it on this show, I think if he stays, we see Caleb Farley play some good football next year. That's just my opinion. That's just my opinion.
I 100% agree. Yep.
Way better coach than Midget.
Yes.
Let's just put that facts out there.
No doubt about that.
I think if you get somebody that's known as a proven coach that can really get his guys produced like Harris is, I think you see more out of Farley, man. I really do. If he's healthy, like he says he is, if he's gotten the issues with his back and his speed and his calves and all those things worked out, I think you see a better version of him. And go ahead.
My whole thing, in all honesty, I don't disagree about Chris Harris being able to develop that secondary and everything. I think he'll be good for it. I think you'll see some improvement in Caleb Farley, but my biggest knock on Caleb Farley more than anything else is just technique. And I think that's going to be his biggest issue coming back, especially since you think about it, he's getting ready to go into his third year without really playing some good football. That's a long time to be out the game and not be really used to the muscle memory is not there or whatever. And his injury history is not going to help him. So we're going to see, man. You hope so. I mean, you spent a first-round pick on him, so you hope you can get something out of him. It's going to be tough, but, it's going to be hard. Chris Harris is going to be a hard deal. I didn't realize that the Bears are still in the mix for him, too.
Yeah, there's still a few teams out there.
Yeah, so I didn't realize that either. So when I saw that, I was like, okay, this is not such a slam dunk as I was hoping it was going to be.
Right.
But I agree with you, though. If he doesn't go to San Francisco, if they decide to go with your boy Vic Mangio or I forgot who the other DC they look. Wilkes. Mm-hmm. If they decide to go with them, then I think he might be here because just give him an opportunity to work with a defense that's, for lack of a better, is solid. Let's just be real about it. It's a solid defense. So we'll just look and see about that. But I agree with you. If he comes, I think you see Caleb Farley really improve. But I don't know how much of that's going to be.
Right. And appreciate the comments. Ali, I'm sorry, man, if I pronounced your name wrong. Please forgive me. Ali Newman, he said he thinks it's a done deal with Nagy. That's just why they hadn't announced it yet. And it could be. We'll see after the Super Bowl. And I don't think he could go wrong with either one of those guys, just, and what I'm thinking. But we'll see. It'll be good to have somebody from the outside bringing a type of a spread type offense, throwing the ball down the field and getting things. And so we'll see what happens. But as we go on, I want to take this time because there's a lot of questions going around about classes of free agency. So tonight we want to talk about the cap situation for the Titans. We're going to break it down for you. We got our resident expert, Jay Lou, man. He's all things cap. But Jay Lou, let's talk about these different classes of free agency so everybody understand before we start saying things that nobody understands. So let's talk about it. So unrestricted free agency. Give us a brief definition of unrestricted free agency.
So basically a brief definition of unrestricted, any player with 4 or more accrued seasons, they're free to negotiate with any team. So they don't really, once the season ended and they had an expiring contract, they're open game negotiation for any team that wants to take their services. And
so for example, David Long, right?
David Long, and I was going to say Nate Davis. Those
Nate Davis,
two that come to mind that are unrestricted free agents.
Yeah, and one thing you got to look at too with that is the market value, so-called market value for those particular players, right? And so one thing I thought was pretty interesting for Nate Davis is I think they said 4 years, 3 years, 22 million. And so that's kind of high for him. He's had an injury type career since he's been with the Titans. So, you kind of hearing G Witt about the Titans might not bring him back for next year, but we'll see. But Jay Lou, go ahead. Restricted free agent.
So restricted free agent, and we have a handful of those out. Aaron Brewer, one that comes to mind as a restricted free agent. They have 3 accrued seasons with an expiring contract. Now, again, just like unrestricted free agent, the restricted free agent is free to negotiate with any other team. However, their original team can offer them various qualifying offers or tenders. So they have the first right of refusal, or they have what you can call compensation with draft pick. So, something that comes to mind is if you hear that Team A has placed a second round tender on player B, then if Team B signs that player, they would have to then compensate that team by giving up a second round draft pick. So, like I said, I know Aaron Brewer is one of those. I think my guy Pop Tart.
He's another one.
And don't be surprised if you don't hear a second or third round tender placed on him while they try to negotiate. Because I think when you play something that high, you start. Everybody knows that you build the rest of your roster 4th through 7th round, but first, second, and third, you shooting for starters day one, really. So by placing a tender that high on him, that'll let you know what the Titans think of him while they try to still negotiate. And Pop-Tart did something that everybody who wants to get paid does.
That's right.
As soon as the season was over, he signed with my guy Drew Rosenhaus.
So you already know he's trying to get the bank. He's trying to get his bag.
Yes, absolutely.
So last but not least, exclusive rights free agents, J. Lou.
So exclusive rights is any player with fewer than 3 years, and we have a couple of very minor ones. What's the Munyer? Daniel Munyer, I think, is one.
Naquan Jones.
And Naquan Jones. So them guys have only been in the league less than 3 years. The original team, if they offer them a 1-year league minimum based on their credited seasons, then nobody else can negotiate with that player. And so again, those are usually your back end players who both of those guys we just named went undrafted, made the team as undrafted rookies, and then again this year. So that's your lower end type of free agents, but that breaks down the 3 classes that you will hear starting in March on how free agents look. And overall, like I said, the Titans have a total of 24, if I'm not mistaken, free agents going into this offseason.
Yeah.
So y'all got the breakdown. So, unrestricted 4 years or more, free to negotiate with anybody. Restricted, you got to remember, restricted is they can negotiate, but the original team, that the Titans would have the right to sign them before they can get that contract from another team, or put various tenders on where they get a draft pick basically back. And then exclusive rights, anybody fewer than 3 years be offered the 1-year league minimum, and they can't negotiate with anybody else. And so let's get into it, guys, because the cap is set for $224.8 million for 2023, and as of right now, the Titans are minus $28 million. And so, if you look at the offensive side of the team, let's look at that first. The undrafted free agency, and we kind of talked about Austin Hooper, guys. He came into his own once they started involving him in the offense. I think we keep him. His market value, according to Sport Track, is two years for $13 million, which is not a great big contract considering he's late 20s. A guy that got some great hands though, good route running. G Witt, Austin Hooper, man, you got to bring him back, right?
I would think so, man. I think you would hope to. But again, you got to look at it from the standpoint, and going back, and Nazar the cap could tell us more about this. But you got to look at it from his cap hit. Right now, I don't think he has one. But I think if you bring him back, you got to start looking at, okay, how deep are you going to go with him? Like you said, the numbers don't sound that bad, but considering that we're already $23 million over the cap, you're going to start thinking about that way. And I think you bring him back. I would. Because I think he provides that extra depth, because Chig is going to be there, and Chig is going to be a target next year. Let's be real about it, because he had a pretty good year this year. So people are going to be watching him a little bit more. So you're going to need that veteran presence at the tight end spot. And to me, Austin Hooper provides that a little bit more. And especially when it comes to route running and everything, like you said, and he's got good hands. he made some great catches for us this year.
He made some huge catches.
Yeah, so I think you definitely try to figure out a way you can bring him back because again, him with Chig is a good tandem.
Yeah, and J. Lo, he's only his cap number is only 3.3 million, so not a big amount of money to give to Austin Hooper. But like I said, 2 years, 13 million, still not a big contract. And I think with him, we talked about this a lot during the season. Is with him, Chig, Burks, possibly Phillips, you got a good core that you can build your offense around.
Yeah, and he's a player that you could build a contract around that's incentive based to kind of get him some more money. And again, that would all depend on the style of football we want to play as well. Even if you think about the style we just played, I think if you had something like 50, 60 catches as an incentive to hit, that's attainable for a tight end in this type of style offense. But I definitely agree with both of you gentlemen. He's somebody that I think you bring back because we really didn't see him get unlocked until the last quarter of the season. And I think you truly saw what him and Chig can do. Now he's not big on run blocking. That's something he still probably need to improve on.
Right.
But I think you take it with that because he gives you that dependability. And let's just be honest, he's a lot faster than Swain out there on the field. So he gives you a little bit of that.
Way better feet.
Yeah.
and so
let's remember like this, even with Swain, you ain't missing much in the blocking aspect with Hooper. So, it ain't like Swain was just a dynamic blocking tight end. So
even though they tried to pump him up to be the best blocking tight end we had, he was the worst blocking tight end we had. And so the other unrestricted free agents on the offensive ball, Swain, that you brought up to you with, don't see him come. I really don't see him back on the team. Dontre Hilliard, it's going to be interesting right here, guys. So Dontre Hilliard, Trent Cannon, which is that running back / kick returner type guy. And you got to think about what they're going to do with Haskins. Is he going to be the backup guy? Are they going to have Hilliard, or do they go young in the draft? The running back out of Tulane, I don't know if y'all saw any of the Senior Bowl practices. Yeah. That guy he got some nice feet. But going to be very interesting what they do with that. Was this Corey Levin, center unrestricted, could be kept for depth. G. Witt, he played pretty decently in spot times during the season. LaRaven Clark, I don't see him coming back. He got his chance, and we saw what happened. And of course, of Nate Davis, since we've heard about him. But J. Lou, what about Nate Davis, man? Do we risk giving him that 3 year, $22 million, a little bit over 7.5 a year to bring him back to help, solidify that right side of that line as far as guard goes? Now we know we got to rebuild the whole offensive line minus NPF, but is Nate Davis worth the money?
So if you read the articles from the Titans plugged in man Jim Wyatt, Wyatt don't think he's coming back, and it's usually Wyatt, he don't miss. I mean, he works for the team, so he's got a little bit more insight than some of us. I personally think the injuries the last 2 seasons. I think Nate Davis. I don't think it's going to be a factor that the Titans are not going to try. I think Nate Davis, when you've read off that average value, which is almost $8 million a year, I think he's going to want to get the bag, and I think the Titans are not going to overpay. I think they've seen what you can do overpaying for the line, and let's just be honest. I know the offensive line struggled last year. We know that, but depending on what pieces you fix at tackle with who, you might be able to get by and guard the first quarter of the season with a good backup from a free agency when you're not paying $8 million. And I think that's the route that they go. I mean, I told you, gentlemen, I firmly believe that we have 3.5 new starters. The wild card for me right now is Ben Jones, because I think Ben Jones is the only one. If he chooses to want to come back, I think Vrabel will allow him to go out on his own terms. And let's just be honest. Ben's played hurt every year he's been here. Yeah. This year was the first time he's been hurt with the head. And we know Vrabel ain't letting you play with a head injury. No. So if he gets that cleaned up and we can see that this was just an anomaly, then I perfectly think that you got 3 new starters. But if not, I think we have 4 new starters, because I don't see Nate coming back, and I don't see them paying him $8 million per.
Well, and that's the thing. I'm inclined to agree with you. I just don't see them overpaying for Nate Davis. Don't get me wrong. I think he's a good, solid guard, but as I don't think it's so much overwhelming that you overpay him for that position. I agree with you on the offensive line, though. Ben Jones. I think Ben Jones coming back is a plus. But still at the same time, for Rand Cawthon, I mean, the one thing you do is you draft his replacement. That's the one thing you do. You know, if he comes back, you draft his replacement. He is a Vrabel guy, though. Ben Jones is a Vrabel guy.
You saw that after the Colts game, right? At home.
Yes.
Yeah. Ben Jones is a Vrabel guy. So I know if Vrabel has his way, Ben Jones wants to do it, you're right. Ben Jones will be back anchoring that offensive line. And I think they will prefer that because of his experience. And again, that would give them the opportunity to draft his replacement.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's the unrestricted free agency. So restricted free agency on offense, which I just don't think Cody Hollister. NWI is a restricted free agency. I mean, it depends on what you want. You know, G Will, he's a good, I'm not going to say good.
He's a good depth guy. And he's a guy you bring in like fifth or sixth wide out. I mean, that's all he is.
Okay. I'm agree with you on that point, because I was going to say, if there's not somebody to take the pressure off of him, he ain't going to show up. No. So you saw this past season when he had to step in and play. I mean, yeah, against Denver, he had 100 yards. After that, what was it?
Again, what you look at with NWI, in all honesty, is unfortunately for him, is another instance where J-Rob overplayed his hand. He did the same thing with Furska when he let Jonnu Smith go, thinking that Furska was going to be the man that's going to step up, and he couldn't do it. He did the same thing last year with NWI, thinking that he was going to be able to step up and not realizing how much pressure having A.J. Brown took away from him that allowed him to play as well as he did. So my whole thing with NWI, don't get me wrong, he's a good receiver. He's a solid, I'm going to put it like this. He's a solid receiver, a solid blocker, but he's not a starter. And he's really, like I said, I look at him as a fourth or fifth receiver because he's got pretty decent hands. And longer he's not your main target, you're working down the coverage and everything, you're working down your progressions, he can be there. He can win against lesser talented DBs. But you're talking about a number one DB or a number two DB or even a number three, I don't see NWI doing much against them. So that's going to be a question. I don't know if they bring him back, considering that.
So if you listened to what Mike Vrabel said at the end of the year, and at Ron Speed, yep. I don't think he comes back. I think there's a better chance of seeing Racing McGrath play more than NWI because they can coach and work on route running and catching. You can't coach speed.
That's
and
true.
If Vrabel is very serious about, I don't think I've ever in the 5 or 6 years he's been here. We all been watching football. I've never heard him call out players like that, like he did. Yeah, he called him out based on injury, and he said, "We're never the fastest team on the field."
So it's almost like since J-Rob was gone, he was gonna speak his mind now. He's gonna speak his piece. He's like, I've been holding this thing. I'm just gonna say it now. Right. Yeah. So that goes back to what I was saying about Caleb Farley earlier. There's still a purpose for him on this team because he can run and he can tackle. Now,
like I said, there's a lot to. I always said there's a lot of potential in Caleb Farley. You just don't know if it's going to come out or not.
Right.
And I know we're going to get into the cap, but just to talk about Caleb Farley while he's not going nowhere, $8 million. If you cut him, you lose $9 million. So there's no cap saving on him. His saving is negative $9 million. Yeah. So you've got to work with him this season. And again, that's why I'm keeping my fingers crossed that Chris Harris falls through. Because I'm like, he was the first one I thought about. He can improve Fulton him, but I thought about Farley just from a speed standpoint and what you've seen Chris Harris do in his career. I was like, he's probably licking his chops to try to bring that potential out of him.
Yeah. Okay. That's going to be one of those wait and see for me. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's okay. That's okay.
But I will say this, I forgot about Vrabel mentioning that. Yeah, speed is going to be a factor. and a lot of the decisions that gets made this offseason, in all honesty. Because again, and we talked about it on the defensive side of the ball more than anything else, the fact that we were looking forward to seeing Cunningham and Long play because they had speed.
Right.
But that never happened because they were just, Cunningham gets hurt and all of a sudden, boom, you running with the slowest linebacking crew across the league.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, these guys are just slow. So yeah, speed is definitely something and you may be right. You may see Racing McRath before you see NWI.
So thank you for joining us tonight, Gabriel Ruiz. He says Farley ain't nothing, basically. And so that's fine. He hadn't played in 3 years. That's fine. But I'm just saying, coaching is going to make a difference.
Yeah, coaching makes a difference.
I'm just saying, give him a chance. Give him a chance. We never know until he gets a coach that can actually coach him, because Midget didn't do nothing. Yeah. I mean, bottom line is, the stiff from G-Wit, bottom line is, Midget was not a good DB coach. And you saw the secondary, right? Yeah. You saw the secondary digress season after season since he's been here. Get somebody in there like Combs, like we had when he was here. The secondary was tackling. They tackle well. They were fundamentally sound. And so let's just see. I mean, he might be right. He might not be worth nothing, but we'll see. We'll see.
But he's the first round pick that you can't get rid of.
That's right. That's right.
So you got to look at it from that standpoint of the fact, and I'm not too far off away from Gabriel on his comment. Yeah. But you got to look at the fact that you got to hope that whoever the new DB coach may be, hopefully it's Chris Harris, he can get a lot out of him and make him a valuable part of this defense.
That's all I'm saying. Let's just see what happens.
I'm not looking for him to be a shutdown corner. I'm just looking for him to be somebody who can work in this defense and make some plays.
Right. If anything, he's your gunner.
Yeah, exactly.
On punt team. So
because letting my boy go, you saw the repercussions from that one.
I know, Liv, man. Everybody's heard of J-Rob and how he did the team. So, hey, we got to heal those wounds up and move on, because we got a new man in charge and the excitement is here. So, Aaron Brewer was our last restricted free agent, and his market value, so-called 4 years, $21 million. I don't know who would pay him that much money, but go ahead, Taylor.
This year.
I think Aaron Brewer's back only because I think size will hurt him on the open market. His tape's not good. And I think he's back. I think he's brought back with the chance to be in play at that center position for you, which is his natural position.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move over to the defensive side of the ball. Good discussion on the offense side, man. Thank y'all for the comments and the questions. Keep them coming. We got a lot more information to go. So let's look at unrestricted free agencies on the defense side of the ball. AJ Moore, safety. Lonnie Johnson, DeMarcus Walker. DeMarcus Walker is pretty interesting, J. Luke, because he had a pretty good season. You could almost argue that he benefited from Jeffrey Simmons, but he played without Jeffrey a lot, and he made some plays without him there. You think about the game, I can't remember if it was Denver. We had 7 sacks when Jeffrey didn't play, and he had 3 himself. And so, he was productive. They got him valued as a 1 year, $3 million contract. I think you bring him back for depth.
I was going to agree. If he wants to be back, I think him and Mario Edwards, I think those are 2 guys that made themselves some money, put some good tape out, but I think they want to be back in the fold, and you hope they do, because they're depth players, as you said. Again, we got to remember, some of these guys that played on the D-line wasn't supposed to be playing as many games and many snaps as they did.
That's right.
So you're hoping that you can build that depth back, because I think that's where the true depth on the team was, the D-line, no matter the injuries and all there, and they caught up with him. But I think he's back, and I also think Walker and Hand are both. Walker and Mario Edwards are both 2 that you probably see come back.
And I agree. Go ahead, G-Wick.
Again, I think they both. Again, you're talking about 2 guys, and I may say this a lot, but I think they're Vrabel guys, man. Underdogs who actually come in, they worked hard and showed production. Mm-hmm. And again, I think that's the biggest thing about them. So I agree with you, Jay Lewis, as far as players to give you depth along that defensive line. I think they proved their worth. I don't think there's going to be a ton of big money out there for them. It may be, but I don't think so. So I think you may be able to bring them back at a reasonable price and have them as depth players on that defensive line, and especially bringing Big Jeff back and having working with Danico Archer. I think you just have a solid defensive line that's going to be able to wreak havoc up front. Again, it's just going to be about, can we get those outside linebackers going? That's going to be the main thing.
Yeah, and Gabriel again. He says isn't Vrabel high on Brewer. He hears how how mean he is. Well, he's an underdog, just like you mentioned.
Yeah,
G Wit. He's an underdog type player, and Vrabel loves those guys, and he loves Brewer for that reason. To answer your question, so appreciate the question, man. Talk about Walker, Dylan Cole. I think you see Dylan come back just for special teams because that's what he was supposed to be at, right?
That's what he's supposed to be. Yeah.
Another to your point, G, with another guy that played a lot of snaps that wasn't supposed to play. But a pretty good special teams guy. So not only do they need speed on defense, as Vrabel mentioned, but they need speed on special teams, G, because we saw a lot of times in punt coverage, you got Stonehouse flipping the field, but you don't have people down there to cover because there's not enough speed out there.
Yeah, you go back to the gunner position, man. That again, I think it's a shame that you get a guy like Stonehouse who could boot it 60, 70 yards, but you don't have a gunner like our boy Cruikshank who could go down there and make the tackle or get the ball inside the 5 and everything. So I think that's a big deal, man. Again, I thought Dylan Cole did a great job, especially on kickoff coverages. I thought he was really good with kickoff coverages, man, as opposed to punt coverage. But still at the same time, yeah, you need he was a solid tackler in special teams, which is why you brought him in. So, yeah, I think he comes back again. And also, I will say this about him. Yeah, he played more than what he was supposed to. But one thing you did find out about him, he's great against the run.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Definitely.
And that's the thing you did like about him. You didn't like him being out there on third down, but you're talking about a first, second down type linebacker who's going to stop the run. He's a serious tackler, and he's not afraid to mix it up in there. I thought he did a great job on that part. So, yeah, I think you saw his worth in the season. So, yeah, I think they bring him back.
And you can bring him in to spot field some guys, if they decide to bring back David Long, bring him in a couple times in a series or two to get spelling for a few plays, especially on those rundowns to take some of that bruising that he'll take as a middle linebacker. And so speaking of David Long, because there was already a question in there as him and Tierra Tart should be the priorities this offseason on defense. David Long, J. Lou, his value, man, is, 6th-round guy that turned out to be a valuable member of the football team, made some plays, flashed a lot. Had some injuries along the way. Kind of smallish for a linebacker. Right. Smallish for a linebacker. Vrabel calls him out at the end of the year, J. Lou. And so David Long, man, does he come back? Do they sign him for this 3-year deal? I think it said $30 million or so. But break it down for us, man.
I think David Long, if he truly wants to be back, I think you see him take a Jayon Brown deal. Jayon did a year after his injury, to kind of prove himself. Had a decent season when got paid by the Raiders, if I'm not mistaken.
I probably got hurt again.
Yeah, right. I think David Long does that because linebacker. Let's just put this out there right now because it's our off season. Linebacker is probably the second worst position on the team behind offensive line if you truly think about it.
No depth, right? No depth.
Inside linebackers because you have no depth and no speed there. So 3 years for 30 is a lot. And I think David Long's smart enough to know that. I think you can see a 1 year or a 2 year with the void year, how they do those special things. But I think he tries to have a prove-it contract because he's somebody who wants to be here. I mean, they took a chance on him as a 6th round and made him a starter. So he has those ties to the organization. He's one where I think Vrabel and the team have to sell him on it because given his position and given his tape, he's got somebody out there that'll overpay for him. So it's just a matter of if he wants to stay in this fit and try to get the bag again next year or go ahead and get the bag. But I personally would bring him back on a 1-year deal with some incentives in there tied to playing time and stuff, whatnot for injury to really see if that's what I want to hinge my horse to.
Yeah, right. And now to be honest with you, I agree with you totally because I thought David Long, as far as when he was out there and he was, I'm just going to put the caveat healthy, he made some good plays. I mean, at the beginning of the season, he struggled, but once he settled in, he was the main cog in that linebacking crew that kept it going. And he allowed somebody like a Dylan Cole to come in place of Cunningham and really show up the run defense. But like you said, his problem has always been soft tissue injuries. because he's somewhat small for a linebacker, even though he has pretty good speed. But his problem has been soft tissue issues. It hasn't been structural. It's just been hamstrings. He can't get away from the hamstring injuries, and it's plagued him since he was a rookie.
And growing too, yeah.
It's been plaguing him since he was a rookie. So I don't know really if Vrabel calling him out in that closing press conference is for him to get his act together and they're going to bring him back, or for just putting it out there and letting people know this is what you're dealing with when you get him, because he cannot get away from soft tissue injuries.
Yeah. Right. And like you said, G Witt, both of you guys said it, and I agree with you. He flashed, he made plays for us, he won a game for us. I think I said in the chat, the Commanders game had an interception in the end zone. And so he can play. He's a playmaker. It's just his health is the thing.
That's the biggest problem.
And I agree with you, J. Lou, that the 1-year deal like Jayon Brown did after his injury, come back, prove himself. And if he wants to stay, there's a spot for him. If they can make the money work out right, or he'll get paid. Somebody will overpay him the year after that. Yeah. Joe Jones, another guy could be a special teams guy for you, outside linebacker. That shouldn't have played a lot of snaps on defense either. Go ahead, G. What I see you grimacing over there about Joe Jones.
Well, I'm just gonna be real about it, man. I think you could probably find somebody in the draft to take his spot, man. I just don't see any value with him at all. I mean, granted, yeah, he had to play more than what you really planned for, but when he played, he didn't make plays. Right. He wasn't really consistent at all. So even as a special teamer, I think my thing about it is you bring Dylan Cole back, you can find somebody in the draft or as an undrafted free agent who's going to give you a lot more speed and possibly a lot more durability and able to fill in occasionally just as well as he did. Mm-hmm. So I just don't see bringing him back.
Yeah. Andrew Adams, unrestricted. Deshaun Hand, Joshua Kalu. I don't really see Adams coming back or Kalu. Deshaun Hand, he might be a camp body just for camp. And then, I mean, Kalu could be too for a camp body. And then, they'll be released later on. Restricted free agent, we already touched on, but Pop-Tart, man. Pop-Tart, what a story there. There's another Vrabel guy. Underdog, undrafted Florida Atlantic player. Man, Pop-Tart, this was his coming out year this year, J. Lou. Yo guy. This is J. Lou's guy.
That's my guy.
Hey, before you go, J. Lou, I gotta say, man, I disagree with you because I think he came out last year, man. I think he came out in 2021, man, because of the way he played throughout the season. I thought this year, I mean, everybody noticed him this year. Mm-hmm. But as far as our eyes are concerned, I'm going to say he came out the year before because we saw his value rushing the passer, stopping the run. We saw all of that. So, and then, like you said, he signed with your boy
Rosenhaus.
so we don't. I would say this: you want to bring him back. I think you want to bring him back, but I just don't know if you're going to be able to.
See, the only thing is for J. Lou, the only reason why I said this year, G, because he did it without Jeffrey in the game. He did it without Danico in the game. And so that's why I said this year, you really noticed him more because you didn't have those guys on the side of him, creating those one-on-ones. And so he really had to play.
And I agree with you because that was the thing I was saying, though. We noticed him.
Yeah.
Is what I'm saying that. And I think, the coaching staff, he really showed out to the coaching staff the prior year. And I think what he did this past season, just confirmed what we saw the previous season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There was no drop off in his game at all.
Yeah, he took it to another level, and that's why you're going to see the second round tender placed on him.
Right.
They're going to place that high tender on him because any team that tries to sign him is going to have to give up a second rounder. If he doesn't come back, I think it's a case of we still got this 1 year left of cap hell to try to fix. And I think that's the only reason, because I think you could get outbid. But if Pop-Tart, I mean, the one thing he showed is that he can do it on his own. And I think that was a big step for him.
Yeah.
But that's my guy. So again, this is the one where I'm telling you, you're going to see the second round tender. I'm almost guaranteeing, there's no guarantees, but I'm almost guaranteeing that they're smart enough to do that with him while they negotiate with Mr. Rosenhaus. He's got a few Titans on the list anyway, but I think Pop-Tart's he can make some nice nose tackle money out there if he's able to hit the free agency streets.
And the thing you like about, and let's go back to it, man. He made big man balling this past season, man, with that play in Indy, tipping the ball and catching it for an interception and everything, which every defensive lineman in the league was like, giving them props for that play because it was an athletic play. Let's just be real about it. Oh, yeah. And that's the thing you like about him at that size and everything. He's very athletic. And like you said, he did it without Jeffrey Simmons on the field a lot. So you can see him. Yeah, he's going to get his bag, man. So one way or another.
Right. So, I can agree with whoever said the comment in the chat with David Long and Tia Tart's got to be your main focus on defense to try to get those guys back in the fold without breaking the bank, if you will. Terrence Mitchell was another unrestricted free agent. I didn't even want to mention him.
Yeah, he's already hit the streets.
I think Lonnie Johnson, though, I think you bring him back. Lonnie Johnson Jr. Just for a camp body more than anything, right? Yeah, you need some guys in camp. AJ Moore could be another one. I know he ended this season on an injury. But again, you need some guys in camp to help.
I just don't know about AJ Moore, man. I don't. Again, we're looking at let's just be real about it. We're looking at the bottom half of the roster, the bottom quarter of the roster when we're talking about these guys. So the question is always going to be, can you get somebody in the draft, somebody younger who's going to be faster? That's going to be the question.
The question too is, you're going to have some depth for special teams. And so you're going to have to find some guys. Because you can't draft everybody for play special teams.
No,
right?
You can't.
Yeah, that's through free agency. And so again, it's just who are they going to be able to find in free agency that can specialize with speed, that can tackle, that know how to stay in their lanes on coverage, and do things like that. And so, we'll see. I
also think knowing Vrabel, how we've known him, you don't want to go too young.
Yeah.
So I think like your Lonnie Johnson and stuff like that, veteran guys have been in the league 4 or 5 years. They know football. I mean, we saw that with Josh Dobbs. He had that made his first start, but he's been in the league as a veteran of 6 years and looked the part, if that makes sense, better than the backup. So to that point, I think that's something that those guys that you just named like that are cheap backups that can come in, and for the most part, the defensive system won't change a lot. Coaching might change in some tendencies, but the system won't change, and you didn't change coordinators. So guys that you can plug in. I mean, we've seen it the last year and a half. They can plug and play on defense with no problem. So I think that's why you see some of those guys come back at the bottom half of the roster.
And so what's going on, G?
No. I agree with you totally, but I just again, I would say this, and I'll put this caveat out there. I think if we are able to get Chris Harris as our DB coach, I think in that regard, the plug and play thing would probably be better than it was this past season. I mean, we had guys.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Agreed.
I just think the plug and play situation would be better. I just don't, even though they play special teams, even though they got a veteran presence and everything, I just don't know really, is it going to be worth having them back, even for special teams. That's just me.
No, that's a great point. Because like you said, your special teams has got to be is vitally important, as we saw. Yes. And those guys have got to be athletes, right? They got to be able to, like I said, tackle, run, do things like that, and be knowledgeable not to hit the center on the field goal, tip. So don't rough the snapper. So things of that nature. So you got to have some intelligence, some high IQ, and some speed to be on special teams. And then one of the exclusive rights free agents is Naquan Jones. Naquan, I don't know, man. He did. He got in the doghouse, J. Lou.
Yeah, Naquan is gonna be. He's gonna be what G Witt's been preaching already. They're gonna find another Naquan as an undrafted one that we'll be mentioning him in July. We're here at New Camp.
Right.
Hey, look at it like this: with the defensive line coach that we have, if he could not break through with him, and this guy,
right? Yeah,
he could not break through with him, and with all the depth problems that we've been having, and he couldn't break through. Then you don't see him coming back.
You don't see him coming back now.
All right, guys. Here's what we want to get to. So now, as we look at this roster and we look at the cap situation for the Titans, right? -28 over the cap.
Go with 23 and a half.
23 and a half.
23
I know,
and a half, yes.
Yeah, 23 and a half, and then it's got the other numbers you add in total cap space. Yeah, 23 and a half. I go with you. I go with you on that. All right. So as we look at potential cuts, J. Lou, let's talk about it, man, because we've all shared ideas, and I know people out there, you've been hearing a lot about what they should do, what they could do, and what makes the most sense, right? To get under the cap, so they can sign Jeffrey Simmons to a long-term deal. They can re-sign David Long. They can get Nate Davis back if they want him. They can get back, Pop-Tart, or whoever else they want to get back, but free up and get the players that they want. And so, J. Lou.
Yes, sir.
If they cut Tannehill, does it make sense to cut Tannehill, or does it make sense to restructure?
It makes sense to restructure Tannehill as your third option on the offseason. So with 23, can I have the floor for just a second?
Man, go ahead.
I know y'all don't.
Let me and G Witter sit back and listen.
Just gonna lean back and listen.
I'm just gonna ask questions. Go right ahead.
So when we talk about the salary cap, the 23, almost 23 and a half over the cap. Now that sounds terrible. And I'm being honest, this is our last year of cap hell. To speak about it, we're paying a dead cap number. So the layman's term of dead cap is paying somebody money that's not on your team no more.
Julio.
We have an $8 million dead cap this year, and that's going to Julio Jones, who's getting $8 million from the Titans, and he more than likely gonna retire because Tom Brady's done hung it up. So he'll get $8 million to sit home on the couch. So 23 million and some change sounds bad. However, and again, I know J-Rob, the problem when you get into restructuring, because there's a player that I think we restructure again, and this is the second time that you're doing this. Restructuring means instead of paying you this year, I'm taking a lower cap hit, but I still gonna have to pay the piper at the end of that contract. And J-Rob done that. If you go back to 2018-19, we did a lot of that. We did a lot of, to his defense, he did a lot of, let me try to win a Super Bowl in this window with veterans, because we had G Witt's favorite guy, Jadeveon Clowney. No. Beasley and all those guys that we paid for, and the way we restructured. Again, everybody wanted to knock Tannehill for having the highest cap number this year. Well, Tannehill had the highest cap number because everybody was ecstatic we got Julio. So they had to move some money around somewhere. So you look at that 23 million, and the deadline to be under, if I'm not mistaken, is March 15th. I think that's when the new year kicks off. And you got to be under so you can start the new year off, and you want to be able to be a player in free agency. Mm-hmm. So now you're going to hear a lot in this offseason about cutting them pre-June 1st or post-June 1st. Basically, all that means is we can cut Tannehill tomorrow, and if we designate it as a post-June 1st cut, we don't get to see that money, that savings, until June 1st. So that don't mean that the player is actually getting cut June 1st. So as I've been playing around with it the last couple of days, 2 cuts right off the bat will get you back into black. And that's Taylor Lewan being cut sometime in the next month.
And that about what, 14.8 million?
Yeah, that's 14.8 million. And then you cut Robert Woods. Robert Woods gives you 12 million. So by cutting those 2, I just got us to $3.5 million that we now have. Still not enough cap money, but we're back in the black. So again, we went from being the third worst to not as far near the bottom when you start looking at cap with those 2.
Right.
So then for the sake of the exercise, I've cut everybody pre-June 1st, because I want to spend my money now. Right. So I think after you cut those 2, I think another candidate that folks just think I'm crazy on, another candidate to be cut that's going to save me $2 million is Fat Randy. Slim Randy.
So, I was sitting here looking at his number too.
Slim Randy's going to
2.6. Well, 2 million. Yeah.
2 million. He's going to get 2 million. So that gets me, with those 3 right there, I'm at $5.5 million. Now I need Zach Cunningham. I think he's gone. I think we all can agree on that. Zach's going to give you almost $9 million. So you cut Zach, that gets you to 14. And then Bud Dupree's gone. I think Bud's gone. Now, I think so too. For the sake of this exercise, I'm going to cut him, because you couldn't restructure, but I think they cut him. So if you cut Bud, that's another 10 million that you got, and that gets you up to 23.8. Now you can do some things with 23.8, and that's just the players I've gotten rid of off the Titans right now would be Bud Taylor, Robert Woods, Zach Cunningham, and Randy Bullock. That gets you right at almost $24 million worth of salary cap. And now that puts you really, when you start looking at it, that's almost top half of the league, because you got some anomalies out there, but then 24-20 is usually the average. So then two or three other things that I think that could happen this offseason, because again, I'm really looking at, you got to start planning for the future for 2024.
Let me get something in real quick, because there's a good comment in the chat about why would you cut Randy when he won some games, Fat Randy, and
yes.
so why would you go ahead? Go ahead.
So the reason I cut Fat Randy is the same reason that they cut Brett Kern, because when they just gave that kicker whatever,
Caleb
Shudik, they signed him to a futures deal. I think they're banking on him being just like Stonehouse was. He has a strong leg, very strong leg, and they can work with him on accuracy and all. And we saw him, he got in one game this year. I think he missed one kick and hit the other ones. And then every kickoff he was doing was going through the end zone. So the Titans really snuck him under the radar because he was a guy that had a big leg in college. And furthermore, if you look at the kickers coming out again this year, I think you can have some undrafted ones that got some big legs coming out. So we talked about it the whole time. Randy was struggling. The one thing I think Randy, you can see this age was catching up with him. He struggled on kickoffs. Kickoff has become the easiest thing in the NFL to put through the end zone. And you saw, especially the year went on, his legs started tiring out. So that's why I would make that cut, because of what we just did to Brett Kern. But
remember this, and this is what people forget. Fat Randy really was on the block coming out of training camp.
Yes. If Sudak don't get hurt.
If he doesn't get hurt,
yes.
Fat Randy might not have been here last season anyway. So that cut actually makes sense. If you can improve on his accuracy, now granted, that's a mental thing. Right. That's more mental than anything. But he's young. If you can improve on his accuracy and the way he kicks the ball off, yeah, absolutely. You can make that move with no problems.
But I understand the question. Like he said, he made a lot of big kicks for us. He missed some too. But like you said, you saw the strength in his leg wane as the season went on. And so, I mean, 2.3 million or whatever it might be. I mean, it's worth a shot. I mean, I know we've had bad luck with kickers around here in the last few years, but hey, we'll see what happens with that. But go ahead, J. Lou. So you got us at 23.8.
I got us at 23.8. So a couple things that I think have to happen this offseason. And again, I'm not touching Tannehill yet, because after I go through all the players I just cut, when I start naming cap numbers and cap number means that these players will account for that much cap next year. You got Tannehill at 36.6, because I still have him on the team right now.
Right.
Then you have Kevin Byard at 19.6, Landry at 18.8, the King at 16.3. I'll come back to him. Jeffrey Simmons at 10 and Danico at 9. I'll stop right there at those numbers. You have to sign Jeff Simmons to an extension this year. I think that something gets done in March with him, and I think what you'll see is he'll have an outrageous signing bonus, and by having such a high signing bonus, his cap number can go potentially from being 10.7 million this year to like 2 million, just based off the base salary, because the signing bonus won't have nothing to do with the cap number. So I think that's something you do to get his number down up under 10. And then I also think that, and this is the one that I mentioned it earlier, where J-Rob was great for restructuring. I think you see that happen this year with Kevin Byard. And again, I think because Kevin Byard, I think he has the team first mentality, especially if it's going to help his guys get paid. And I think he will take that money on the back end, because again, you've got cap space the next couple of years. I think you see them roll him over where you can get his $19 million number down to a more respectable 10 to 12 ranges. And that can free up about $7 million. So I got us restructuring Kevin Byard. I have us signing Big Jeff to a long-term extension. Now, this is the one where I just looked on the thing and Gabriel said he's about to head out if I mention this one. So Gabriel, I hate that you're gonna leave us on this one, but this is the one where I go back.
He
back.
did say he gonna leave the
He said he's gonna leave the show if I mention this. I don't say get rid of Derrick Henry. However, let's just take everybody back to that fateful night of April last year when AJ Brown was traded. It would not shock me if Derrick Henry is traded next year. Would not shock me.
We did learn from AJ. But
we learned from AJ. The difference between AJ and Derrick Henry, AJ Brown, we just didn't pay him, and he was wide receiver. Wide receivers are more prime than a running back. And I'll give you an example. There's a running back who's going to be a free agent this year who probably should get starting running back money. And he's been a backup on a team the entire year, the entire time he's played. You know what that is?
Kareem Hunt.
Outside of Kareem Hunt, that's one. It's one more player. He plays for a team that has a star on their helmet.
Tony Pollard.
Yeah.
Tony Pollard has been a backup majority of his career. Let's just be honest. He's not running back one in Dallas, but yet he's probably about to hit free agency and get paid by running back one because to me, he does a lot more than Zeke. And I think you saw that in the playoff game.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He got hurt. That ended them. So,
which is why I don't think he's going anywhere.
Yeah. They're going to pay him. But that's my one wild card for the offseason for the Titans is I think you haven't reached the point where you want to restructure Henry. I think a trade is more likely than a restructure. Again, I don't want to get rid of Henry because I'm fascinated. I want to see what he can do in an offense that I've been preaching on that kind of spreads it out.
Yes.
It wouldn't shock me if you trade him to try to, at the end of the day, we only have 6 draft picks this year, if I'm not mistaken. 5 or 6 draft picks.
6.
Either him or Tannehill, I think 1 to 2 get traded. And it's depending on who you're going to get more value from.
Wow.
So that's me.
Stalker. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. There you heard it.
Here's the only reason I hope that doesn't happen. This is the only reason I say it. Is simply because behind a trash offensive line and the fact that he did lose a step, he still ran for over 1,500 yards.
I 100% agree.
And on top of that, G-Wit, and on top of that, I know, Jayla, you're not saying that's what you want to happen.
Oh yeah,
you're just saying,
I know that.
Yeah, I'm letting Gabriel know, man. We appreciate you coming.
Yes,
don't leave the show, man. We just put it out there that don't be surprised. But to your point, G-Wit, a trash offensive line and a predictable offense.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That every time you put in 2 tights, 3 tights, you knew that he's gonna run the ball.
Hey,
or your packages.
He was running against 8 and 9 man fronts.
That's right. That's right.
And still got 1,500 yards.
And had Dennis Daly as his left side tackle.
Oh, it was and Aaron Brewer as his left guard. Come on, man.
And so I don't hope he's. Go ahead.
There is a way to restructure both him and Tannehill that can get you to like 45 million cap. My only thing with restructuring is how far down do you want to restructure those guys to have to pay? Because you're going at the end of the day, like everybody keeps talking about getting rid of Tannehill, etc. Tannehill probably has better trade value than Derrick Henry because again, this is another shocker. I think you could finagle a first-round draft pick or a second-round pick for Tannehill, depending on the right team for quarterback need. Let's just think about quarterbacks. Let's think about quarterback-needy teams. The entire NFC South needs a quarterback. Will we agree on that?
Tampa Bay definitely needs a quarterback.
So when you start looking at teams, and again, I'm not saying top 10 draft pick, but I think there's a way where you don't be surprised if you could get a first or second rounder for Tannehill and make that trade. So I think that there's going to be 2 moves that Rand does that's going to be shockers. And you're going to sit back and be like, wow, how did he pull that off. And I think they're going to involve Tannehill and possibly Derrick Henry.
And I'm gonna put some on top of that. He's gonna trade for the first pick of the draft. That's gonna be the other one.
Yes.
That's gonna be the other one. So, we'll see.
If he does, you will see him draft one of those quarterbacks coming out.
Oh yeah, no doubt. That's the only reason you do it. Yeah. The only reason to do it is that you're gonna get you a quarter, and that's after he trades Tannehill.
Yes.
But my whole thing is just looking. I just don't know. In all honesty, I'm not disputing what you're saying, Jay Lou. I'm really not. But I just don't know. Again, because those are two guys, in all honesty, you got to stop and think about what do you have coming up behind it. And I'm sorry, our situation with Derrick Henry is not the same as what Dallas has with Zeke.
That's true.
No, agree.
And Rand Carthon made a good point. He said, in his press conference, he said Bill Parcells always told him, running back position is all about production.
That's right.
If they can produce in high school and produce in college, they're going to produce in the pros. And Derrick Henry has done all three.
Yeah.
So can I give you my devil's advocate? And again, we're just having
I know.
We're having great debate on the
great dialogue.
This is the authenticity I was talking about tonight.
Yes.
I knew something was going to come up.
You know how I feel about Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
But let me just play devil's advocate. When I start looking at it, I'm looking at it from GM business. I got to plan the cap 2-3 years. Derrick Henry missed all of last year, and your running game didn't miss a beat. And that running back that filled in for Derrick Henry, I think he led Carolina after they let go of their top running back.
Yep.
So to go back to I know Gabriel, I think they were asking about AJ Brown. That's why I think yes, I 100% agree. If you look at both of the teams, the Buffalo Bills got beat because they can't run the ball. They can't run the ball. And so you've got to be able to run the ball in December and January. But if you go around the teams, look at the teams in the Super Bowl Sunday. Who's their starting running back? Kansas City has a rookie running back and then by committee, but they have an excellent quarterback. Philadelphia basically is running back by committee with the quarterback, but he has excellence on the outside. Every team I think the top 5 running backs in the league either didn't make the playoffs or got bounced out early.
Yeah.
So yes, you got to be able to run the ball, but I think when you start, if we see a shift from Derrick Henry, I think that's the first step in bringing the Titans into the new age of football. Because right now you're starting to see that it's built from the outside in. And again, I'm not saying that we won't be able to run. You can't run the ball because you have to be in it. That's proven.
I love it.
I just don't know. I don't know if if you carry a running back on your team with a $16.5 million cap hit.
I understand. And again, I my whole thing, and I've been like this from day one. I'll say it because it's true. Even if you trade Tannehill and you go make a deal with Chicago and get that number 1 pick, and you bring in a quarterback, you have got to be able to run the ball to protect them.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
You can't run the ball. And again, I disagree with the general consensus out there. Running backs don't grow on trees, not good ones.
No,
that's right.
They don't grow on trees.
That's right. There's not many of them.
Again, I just look at it like with Derrick Henry. If I'm with you. I don't know if you restructure him and go to how deep you go or whatever. But I'm always of the mindset: if you want to have a good passing game, you got to have a legit running game.
Oh yeah,
no doubt.
Our problem this past season, is that we had a legit running game, but we didn't have a passing game.
Yeah, and we didn't want to change it.
And again, I understand your reason. I'm not disagreeing on your reason, but I'm just saying, to me, if you're going to make these changes, especially on the outside, having Derrick Henry makes it a whole lot easier.
Yeah, no doubt.
That's why I say you don't get rid of him.
100% agree.
Man, thank y'all for joining us tonight. This was, we've been building up for this show, man. We knew it was gonna be one. It was gonna be a lot of discussion. We thank y'all A lot of people still hanging with us, man. We've gone over an hour, and I understand you might have to jump off, man, but hang with us. We got a little bit more to go, and then we'll be wrapping it up. So some of the needs of the team, we already know: offensive line, offensive coordinator, wide receiver, edge linebacker, secondary depth. So a lot of needs, a lot of directions they could go. Number 11 pick in the draft, and somebody in the chat said, "Do you think we can get a number one with Tannehill on the 11th pick? We get to the number one spot?"
Nah,
I mean,
because Chicago to get to that number one spot without trading Jeff Simmons, because I've seen that floated out. I
saw that. That's ridiculous.
Rand will need to be fired if he do that, because just how everybody feel about Derrick Henry, Jeffrey Simmons don't grow on trees.
Hey, look, let's remember. Let me just put it like this. I think the comment you saw from Jeffrey Simmons this week illustrates what we've been saying.
That's right.
One of the reasons why J-Rob got fired is because he put out there to Jeffrey Simmons that we're not going to be able to pay you. Yep. And she was like, you will not be trading or not paying Jeffrey Simmons. And you see Ron Carthon, Jeff, we're going to try to do what we can to make you get paid.
We're going to get you paid, basically
First
what he said.
statement you've heard from anybody about a player on this team, you heard about Jeffrey Simmons saying, I've talked to him, we had a good spot. And I'm like, okay, boom. Yeah. I'm like, so let's just say this. So you can, to me, that rumor is just conjecture. People just throwing stuff out there. Because Amy is not about to let that happen.
No, I think to get to that number one, it's you're looking at this year, next year's first, this year, possibly next year's second, and possibly a third. I think five picks can get you there. But I just think and this is just me. I would like to see him trade up there if they get rid of Tannehill and go younger, because again, Mahomes is the first. This is his first Super Bowl since he signed the $500 million, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think he got a new his extended contract.
So he's the first quarterback in a while to be in the Super Bowl on an extended contract here recently. Because every other team has had at least a participant, like Jalen Hurts is still on his rookie deal. Yeah. So I would like to see him get younger at that position without giving up the farm. I also think that Titans rumor was possibly floated out there as Chicago was smart, because they know that Indy and Houston also want to come up. And so now it just becomes, who's going to give me the most amount of first?
Yeah.
That's what I think it'll boil down to.
Yeah, right. and that's going to be the whole key, because really, especially in our division, let's just be real about it.
Yeah.
You know, as it looks right now in our division, I would say the top, and I'm just going to put it out there, you know, because I said it last year after his rookie year. I just think that before Trevor Lawrence is the top.
He's the top quarterback in the division. 100%.
You know, again, Indianapolis doesn't have a quarterback right now, so you know they're at the bottom.
And Derek Carr.
Not much better, and that gives you Tannehill as the number two. But as we've said since the time we got Tannehill is Tannehill.
Yes.
There was a reason Miami let him go.
Yep. Let's
be real about that. So I don't have a problem trying to get younger at the QB position. My problem is at the running back position. Is going to be the key for that play. If you try to get younger, you got to have a legit running game.
Man, Gabriel's on it tonight, man. He says, so can we all agree Willis isn't the guy? So let me say this. Let me say this real quick. I don't disagree necessarily with you, but let's get a better coaching opportunity for him, and we'll see. We got to have an OC. Again, the coaching to me is a big deal. You can say whatever you want to say, and that's fine. Everybody's got their opinion. But what I'm saying is the coaching is huge, especially when you got a rookie quarterback that didn't come out of a pro-style system, right, G-Wit? They come into a league. He's got to be coached up. And I don't think they did a good job with him. So I'm not saying he's the answer. I think we all agreed last year that he was a project, that he wasn't ready to even step on the field. Again, he was put in a position, like we said earlier, what G-Wit said, that he had to play some meaningful snaps, which, in turn, we saw he wasn't ready. And we all said that. I think, though, you just got to bring in the right coach and see what happens. You got to see what happens.
So I don't know if Willis is a Vrabel guy or if that was a power trip that we saw between.
And he might be gone, right? He might be gone.
Yeah, that's my. if you make the trade for the number 1 draft pick, then that lets you know that I think Vrabel wasn't ever sold on Willis, and that was a J-Rob decision.
I think that was a J-Rob guy. I really do. Go ahead, G-Witt.
I'm going to say this about Willis. I was fine with Willis being a project. Again, I said it from the get-go, he shouldn't have been playing this year at all. Mm-hmm. But the tail of the tape is what really sold it on me that you really don't want him on this team, is when you have to go out there to do a hard count. And
that was pretty bad.
You're laughing and telling everybody, I can't do it because it's too funny. And the defense is laughing at you too. And I'm like, dude, that tells me you're not a competitor.
Yeah.
That tells me you're not a competitor. You know, don't get me wrong. You like playing football and everything, but you're not a competitor. You out there just to play the game. You're not out there to win.
Right.
And when you do stuff like that, even as a rookie, you don't do that.
Yeah.
You know, I don't care if you're unproven or not. You don't go out there, try to do a hard count and start laughing about, I can't even do it. I'm like, really? That to me tells me that's the reason why you saw Josh Dobbs come in here and start.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That's the reason why.
That was a 10 right there.
That's the reason why. If he comes back next year, which is possible, I'm not going to say it because it's a 3rd round pick, but I would say you're looking at him probably less than your boy that had all the skeletons in the closet on Vrabel or something.
Practice squad. He'd be on the practice squad.
That was here for a while. Because that one thing right there, that lets me know that you're not really an NFL football player.
Yeah, I think Josh Dobbs is your backup quarterback right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, he's got it. It's his to lose.
Yeah.
But so let's take a look at free agents, man, because I think there's an opportunity to solidify one of your left tackle position, if you will, if you want to give this much money up. So there's a guy out of San Francisco, and Jay Lou, we kind of talked about this a little bit. Mike McGlinchey, free agent, got ties with Rand, a good lineman. His value right now sitting on the market is 4 years, $43 million. That's a lot of money, but you're investing in a place of need, G-Witt, that we all know needs to be rebuilt. And he's a right tackle.
He's right tackle.
Yeah.
So if you take him, do you move NPF over to left? Because I think it's easier to move NPF than it would be to move McGlinchey.
No. My question is, if he's a right tackle to me, and you sign him as a free agent, you bringing him in to play right tackle. So NPF, what is the question I got? Because I know NPF played left tackle in college, right? Mm-hmm. The question I got is, can he do the job? Because let's just be real about it. He couldn't replace Dennis Daly.
So I think it's because we had nobody that's play right tackle. So I mean,
I don't know.
I think the Dennis Daly part was, and this is probably why we don't have the offensive line coach anyway, is that when you saw Dylan get hurt, because I think their plan was Dylan at left tackle, and continue NPF in right. And you saw that for a few snaps before Dylan tore his knee up. Yeah. But I like him. There's also there's a left tackle out there that I was hoping the Titans would have made a play for this year, and that's Andre Dillard.
Andre Dillard. That's my next one I was going to bring up.
Unrestricted free agent. And I think that's somebody that you go after as well. That's a solid player, young guy, 28 years old, and he's been a backup in with Philly. So that's another one that I'd have my eye on as well, Ed.
Right. And so, there's a couple of names, offensive line, and that'll, if they go that route, with there's two right there that you can help solidify some offensive needs. Look at receiver. You got DJ Chark, another receiver out there, young, big body guy, can run. Alan Lazard is out there as a free agent this year, unrestricted. Yeah. And his value is 3 years, $37 million. So there's some guys sitting out there. Another big guy that can run routes. I would question his run blocking ability. Is the only thing. But you got a couple of young guys still, in their 20s that can bring in some value if you want to bring in one of those guys. And then in the secondary, there's a name that popped up, G Win. I know you're gonna like it because it could be a potential reunion. Cruikshank is a unrestricted free agent this year. He only signed with the Bears for a year.
Yeah.
And so, he was a tight end whisperer last year, the year before last, when he was here on the team. And so could be a possible reunion, right?
And again, I would have no problem with them bringing him back if he's going to be, like he was a tight end whisperer and special teams gunner. Can you imagine having him as a gunner and Caleb Farley as a gunner?
I'm saying.
That's what I'm talking about. So I wouldn't mind having Chris Shank back. He's not going to be. But the thing you like about Chris Shank is that he can't cover tight ends.
Right.
Yes.
He was the one safety that could cover tight ends better than any of them. So yeah, I would bring him back. Just depends on how much he's going to cost you. But I don't know about those receivers though. To be totally honest, I really don't. I don't know. I mean, you got to remember, didn't Lazard play with Aaron Rodgers?
He did.
So
without Devontae Adams too. So
yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's if you can't make it with Aaron Rodgers, then something's wrong to me.
I mean, he played good. It's just now they in a situation they're going to have to give him a contract if he's going to stay.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you got Juju out there. He's with Kansas City. They might re-sign him. McCole Hardman is a free agent coming up. I mean, I'm just talking about a few. There. Yeah, talking about some guys potentially on the offensive side of the ball. Mike Gesicki, tight end out of Miami, which we don't need. Andre Dillard, like you mentioned, J. Lou. There's some people out there. And then in the secondary, you got Murphy Bunting from Tampa Bay, solid cornerback, can tackle real well. And Jamil Dean, which he might just be a little bit too much money, but he's another good depth type guy from Tampa Bay. And so there's some folks out there. It's just going to be interesting to see what the Titans will do, especially if some of those moves come to fruition that Jay Lou mentioned, minus the Derrick Henry one.
Hey, look, my whole thing, in all honesty, because I've been thinking about this, if on free agent moves, I know you got to do what you got to do, but really, I would rather see the free agent moves on the O-line and then start to really rebuild that O-line. I think it's the same thing that J-Rob did when he first got here. He brought in some free agents on the O-line because he brought in Ben Jones and a couple other guys and Dennis Kelly. And, I just think those things right there, they help solidify your O-line and gives you a chance to really, if you draft a quarterback, to protect them, along with a good running game. And I will say this, it would, if they do that, then that may help, in all honesty, in your deal when you're talking about possibly trading Derrick Henry and getting picks for him. Mm-hmm. Because really, I mean, you got to have a solid running game, and there aren't a lot of good running backs out there. And Tony Pollard's not going out of Dallas. Jerry Jones is not going to let him go. Not to what happened in the playoffs.
Right. He'd be dumb to let him go. But hey, man, thank y'all for joining us tonight for another episode of Halftime Adjustments. Eddie on there, G with J. Lou.
Yes, sir.
Cap situation. Y'all missed it, man. Go back and replay the show, man. The cap just broke down adequately by J. Lou, man, and potential moves and what we thought about who should stay, who should go in the free agency pool and all that, man. Just go back, replay the show when you get a chance. But, man, we thank y'all for the comments, the questions, man. All of y'all that supported us tonight as we get ready for this 2023 season, Jets. And so got the Super Bowl coming. Any Super Bowl predictions before we head off, guys? What you think?
So I'm going to go. I'm going to go Chiefs 35, Eagles 31. I think it's a high-scoring game. I'm not gonna count out half a Billy one-leg pass.
It's hard, man. It's hard. Just when you thought the Bengals had the game in hand, man.
Yes.
The man scrambles with a bum leg and gets the first down and gets hit out of bounds. That was a play of the game right there.
Oh, yeah,
that was.
You had to gut that one up.
That big sack by Jones, man. I mean,
yes.
I mean, that was a huge play on that third down, man. Got the ball back to it, like you said, to half a Billy, and He did what he always does.
Just like we talked about.
Be honest. Right now, you got to consider him probably the clutch quarterback in the league after Brady is gone, because you give him time, he's going to get you down the field.
Yep.
I mean, he did it with one leg. Come on.
He did. It's going to be Kansas City's going to have to. So Kansas City's going to muck it up in the secondary. They're known for holding, and it depends on how the officials call the game.
Yeah.
If they're going to be able to get away with that.
I think Philly's going to take it, man. I just think that defensive line is going to wreak havoc.
Yeah, so the Kansas City offensive line is about to be tested. It really is. They rebuilt it a couple years ago. They've been year 2 together. And so it will really be tested. If Kansas City can't run the ball, they're going to be in trouble.
Agreed.
They're going to be in trouble. Because
I think you see Kansas City's defensive line take advantage of the injuries on the Philly line.
Right.
Lane Johnson is playing with a busted stomach, basically, or whatever's wrong with him.
And then somebody got an elbow issue.
I think you see Chris Jones and them guys. We always say it's one in the trenches. We like the trenches.
Oh, yeah.
I agree. Whichever defensive line can impose their will, I think that's the team that wins. Because, again, it has the potential. I don't see Kansas City's, to your point, I don't care who's officiating. I don't see Kansas City's defensive back stopping the wide receiver.
Slow Batman.
No.
And it's also going to depend on how hurt Jalen Hurts really is.
Yeah, shoulder.
Because if you go back and look at that 49ers, until they just gave up when they had no quarterback, they were putting some hits on him, and his shoulder has really not been 100% since he was hurt before the season was out. So that's a wild card to keep an eye on.
Yeah, and I really thought the way that defense was playing, and me and G Wick kind of watched almost the first half together. Yeah. And I thought San Francisco was going to actually win that game until Purdy got knocked out of the game.
Yes, I did too.
Because Philadelphia was having issues moving that football. And of course, once the defense starts playing 80 and 90 snaps,
plays,
they'll get worn down. But it's going to be a good game. It's just hard to go against Mahomes, especially if his receivers are healthy.
That's going to be the game.
That's going to be the key.
And then I think it's going to go down to the wire. But if not, I don't think they got a chance. Because Kelsey, they'll just double team him all game, and then they won't have anybody.
They're going to take him away. They're going to try to take him away more than anything else. But I will say this though: the Kansas City does have one good caveat, and that rookie running back they got is actually really good.
Yeah,
and let's just be real about it.
And his backup.
and one problem Philly has, if on that defense, is that they're really not that strong against the run.
Well, that's because they're not that mobile. You got some big run pluck stuffing guys. You got Sue, you got Cox. Graham is 10 years in. He's an older guy. You still got Reddick on the edge. He's good, explosive player. You got Sweat on the other end. He's a little banged up. Well, so we'll see. But it's going to be good, man. It's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be a good game. And I think, what'd you say, 35-31 Chiefs? Who said that?
35-31.
That's a high-scoring one right there, man. I don't know.
I think it does turn to a shootout, and I think it comes down to Mahomes a ball in his hand driving down, and they 31-28 Chiefs. I'm gonna say that 31-28 Chiefs.
I will say this: if it's a tight game going into that under 2 minutes in the fourth quarter, the one thing Philly don't want to see is Mahomes having that ball in his hand.
No.
You just
because he can go 90 yards on you.
Yes, he's gonna make a play.
Yes,
he's gonna make some plays. And you can see that with his receivers and everything. They're just gonna make some plays. So I agree. I think the receivers, if they come back and they're healthy, not Coney. God, what's his name? The guy they got from the Giants.
Darius Toney.
Darius Toney. Thank you. I kept saying Coney. It was Toney. But I think if he comes back, especially, you're going to see them, they're going to be able to move the ball pretty good because he's a strong receiver.
Yeah.
Well, again, thank y'all for joining us for another episode of Halftime Adjustment. Check us out, man. We'll be giving information when we come back. Like I said, the league year starts in March. We'll be cranking it up full go then as we look at the free agency, as we look at contracts, as we look at the draft coming up. And don't forget, man, we got the in-house cap Czar.
Yes, sir.
J. Lou, man. J. Lou got all the info for you, man. Come and check us out and join us as we break it down. But again, thank you for joining us tonight. The comments, the questions, the support of the show. If you like the show, man, share it. Get it out there. Get us out there, man. Let people know.
3 weeks to the combine, baby.
That 3 weeks to the combine. Let them know about halftime adjustments. Eddie Arnell, G with J. Lou. We out of here, man. Peace.
Peace.